Okay, today on the show, my guest is Kurt Byers with New Western. Let me tell you more about Kurt. Now, Kurt Byers is the head of brokerage partnerships at New Western, where he manages the national and regional partnerships across their 40 plus markets. He's grown partnership deal revenue year over year by 77% and has added 1,000 new leads to his agents' monthly pipelines. His current focus is scaling New Western's recently launched Podium program to all 40 markets with 10,000 partner real estate agents. Kurt has been at New Western for only about a year, but he wasn't always in real estate. He began with a speech language pathology degree, working with kids with special needs in 2016, then moved into growth strategy, sales, and marketing roles at both startups and Fortune 500 companies with sectors including healthcare, product development, beer sales. By the way, I've been in healthcare, product development, and beer sales as
Oh
well,
yeah.
funny enough. University research labs and golf technology. Those two I have not done. Relationship building transcends industries, so moving into something he already loved, like real estate, was the perfect transition. Please learn more about the company Kurt works with, New Western, at sell2newwestern.com. Again, sell2newwestern.com. We'll have a link to that in the show notes. Also, follow New Western on Instagram, Facebook, anywhere. We're going to have all of the links in the show notes, but you could just search for New Western in Instagram, Facebook, find them, and they've got really great content in social. Kurt, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Yeah, happy to be here. I'm excited.
I'm excited too. We so rarely have investor companies or investor agents on, just because there's so many podcasts already that service those consumers. But our agents, or our listeners rather, our agents who want to learn about investments and what to do when they come across a client, and maybe the agent themselves doesn't have a lot of skill in that area or doesn't really know how to handle those clients, sort of understanding their needs as well as what to do. So I love that you guys have a solution for that. But before we dive into that, let's talk about you and your background. So you've done a lot of different things, as I was mentioning in the past. What brought you to New Western?
Yeah, so I was living in Tampa with my wife and three kids, and one of my best friends here, Seth Mitchell, he has been here since college, and I've never heard anything but good things about New Western. And so um, he sent me the role for partnership manager, and he thought it'd be, a really good fit with the company and my kind of like career growth. And so I applied and just kind of never looked back. And it really has been the perfect fit. I've been able to use a lot of what I've learned in the past about relationships and scaling partners and looking at the ways to market certain things to different people. And it just kind of it all fell into place, and it's been, really good ever since. So I'm very thankful that I got here.
Great. Well, tell us what New Western is.
Yeah, so New Western is a real estate investment marketplace. We have over 200,000 investors actively buying and selling from us in our 40 plus markets. We have been around since 2008, and we've done over 17 billion in transactions. So we are always buying, we're always selling, we're always looking for new people to work with. And in each of our markets, we have that individual brokerage office. So we're very much a boots on the ground investment company versus some that tend to lean towards algorithms. We really have local agents ready to give you, a cash offer, but that cash offer will come with an in-person meeting, talking through investment strategies, what types of houses to look for. So that's really where we differentiate ourselves. And that's how I think New Western has been so successful since 2008, is finding that profile of investor that really likes to work with agents and is able to have that one-on-one connection. And so our 40 markets are doing great, and 2024 is looking really healthy for investment marketplaces. So it should be a solid year. But New Western is definitely always looking to grow on that side of things. So I think working with agents is one of the things we do best, and so that's why this program and this podcast, like everything we're doing, is really designed to help bolster that relationship. So
I love the boots on the ground. I remember when we started to see several years ago some of the iBuyer companies starting to have problems. Most of those companies didn't really have boots on the ground in local markets, or maybe they'd hire somebody to do a few things. But it seemed like there was a disconnect between what was actually happening in those marketplaces and what was happening at the mothership company.
Yeah,
And, there just seemed to be obviously some challenges there. So I imagine that's part of your secret sauce is having people there, which obviously is not as profitable because you have compensation for those people. But if
yeah,
it keeps the company ridiculously healthy, of course you're still in business. And a lot of
yeah.
those companies who did similar things that to Northwestern. I'm in Chicago, so I always want to think
Oh yeah,
Northwestern, but
all
New
good.
Western. Is it's incredible the growth that you guys have had and billions in transactions. I mean, it's really you guys really must understand how to do this in a way that is beyond scalable. It's just shocking how much production you do. So, tell us a little bit about how agents can work with New Western.
Yeah, so we have agent relationships, in pretty much most all the major brokerages throughout our markets, and those are really at the agent to agent level. We're a cash buyer for EXP and Keller Williams and some of those bigger names, but so many of our transactions are done in that day to day local market agent relationship. And so, a big way agents work with our agents is when they're coming across a house that, whether it's inherited, distressed, going through trying to look at what you could view it as on the market versus an investor versus a cash buyer. Um, the relationship really is just, hey, I have this house coming up. It's brutal. It's pretty ugly. What do you think you could do with it? And our investor agents are like, yes, let's go. That's a great house for us because so many of our 200,000 investor agent or investors really look for value add opportunities. So they want to add a bathroom. They want to rehab the house. They want to do the floors, the roof. And they've gotten so good at putting their processes together to flip these houses or fix and rent or buy and hold that they're really able to do it at a price that makes sense for an investor buying cash versus your everyday MLS buyer. Like I just bought a house with my wife and it needs a ton of work. It'll cost me way more than what our investors are doing because they're so good at it. They have the systems in place to help rejuvenate areas and take bad houses and make them livable. So my wife and I are just day by day, but they can do it in weeks. So it's very impressive.
It is, I imagine having to wrangle contractors and all sorts of service workers across the country is probably not the easiest part of that job, but the most one of the most important parts. So let's talk about how our listeners can interact directly with New Western and help their clients. So they come across a distressed property. This is a
Mhm.
perfect example. Our owner Nick has some relationship with a city, one of the suburbs here in Chicago, and anytime they have like a probate issue or some sort of I'm not exactly sure how it ends up with the city or the village, but they end up saying, "Hey, Nick, we got to sell this property," and it's
Yeah.
always in a distressed condition. It's pretty dilapidated and dilapidated rather, and then he's got to clean it up and get it ready to sell. So if and he comes across a property like that, how might he work with you guys?
Yeah, so we recently launched what's called Podium. It's our brokerage and agent referral program, brokerage partnership program, however you want to put it. It's really designed to take your retail agent and allow them to submit properties that they see that might be distressed or need a lot of work directly to an agent at our company. And they'll turn around and give you an offer in 24 hours. And I know there's other companies out there that will spit out an offer in 4 minutes, but our agent will actually come out and walk the house with you, tell you why the price is why it is, and build the relationship. So every house you see from now on, you can also submit and get a cash offer for. And one of the big things within that program is you get a 2% of purchase price referral fee at closing. And so we really see it as a way for retail agents to increase revenue in an area where they're probably not doing it now. I know there's a lot of agents, they see a house where it's like getting that to list is going to be really tough.
Right.
I'll let someone else with that specialty handle it. Well, we just want to buy more houses. We buy a house every 13 minutes. We want to buy more. And so if you can take a house that you see and you know it's going to be a lot of work, you don't want to become a project manager, and you can just say, I know, my agent at New Western can sell that in 7 days.
Yeah.
We can close in 7 to 10 days or 30 to 60, whatever works for your seller. But you can go to sell2newwestern.com and you can sign up, submit the house, or just sign up and get, involved in the program. And really that 2% is across the board. So I know there's a lot of changes coming up potentially in June, and our offer stands. That will be something, because of how successful we've been in the way we're able to move houses with our investment marketplace. That 2% will still stand whether or not the seller is agreeing to pay it. So that's something that we believe will be really big in the industry, is seeing houses that need work and knowing, okay, well, I've got a little bit of a slow month, but let me go change my marketing a little to find more distressed properties, and then we can work together and sell as many as we can. And so building those individual relationships is really important, and then building them out from brokerage down has been something we've been doing as well, so that we can do webinars and buy the team lunch and come out and have our GMs and our agents interact on a day-to-day level, so we can tell you the zip codes and tell you what to look for, tell you our buy box, 3-2 in this county, but 3-1 in this county, 2-1. So there's little variances across the country that really make a big difference to our investors, and our agents are so good at identifying the needs that working with agents and listing agents, retail agents, has become such a nice way for them to continue growing their numbers. So that's why we wanted to make it a national program, and something that wasn't just agent to agent, but now it can be our 800 agents to thousands, because we can buy so many.
Yeah, that's really incredible. So it's amazing that you guys are purchasing homes that quickly. And back to the example of my boss Nick, the owner, who got this listing just the other day, and he really didn't want it. And boy, it was in such bad condition. And when he puts it on the MLS, it just doesn't look, it really looks bad. And we were yelling at him for not using professional photography. We're like, Nick, you got to, he goes, have you seen what's in the pictures? He's like, I don't think professional photography is going to help, but
Yeah.
it's a problem, right? So this is something that where you guys can come in and say, hey, we got it from here.
Yeah.
And the idea that you have already committed with your buyers to be able to continue to pay that commission no matter what going forward is a huge thing, because obviously you're solving a massive fear point right now for agents who work with buyers, going, geez, I think I'm going to get paid going forward, but we'll see. And
Yeah.
obviously, future will hold. You guys have already committed to continuing to compensate agents that way, and I think that is going to be huge for you going forward. So this is a nice way. So let's talk about how someone might identify an opportunity. So if I'm in a market, and I say, gosh, I'd love to earn some additional revenue by referring stuff out to you guys, how might I start doing that? What should I be looking for?
So I'd say when you're going on your traditional, listing agreement, you're marketing, you're trying to find sellers who want to go to the MLS, there are certain listing agreement meetings you'll go to where you realize, okay, well, we do need to change countertops, floors. No one's updated the paint since the 80s. Like, there's a lot of things where it's like, all right, well, maybe we could just get them to, change all this and then we'll list it. Well, some people need to move. Some people have to, get out of an unfortunate situation, whether that's their mortgage or whatever. We can come in, and it doesn't like, we buy fire burnouts, we buy, hoarders. We buy the distress of the distress, but we also buy, very motivated, very people that need to move now, because we can still provide a very good market value cash offer depending on the situation. But when you're looking at trying to change some of your marketing or looking at going after more, it's, whether you are looking at more foreclosures, and because that foreclosure has a pending date, you can't list and hope that it doesn't sit on the market for 90 days because it doesn't look very good. You can look at doing or targeting, older population, you can look at targeting areas that are up and coming that typically, um, I'm trying to think of the best way to put it, but really, we like to find areas that need value and need value added through someone being able to flip that house. And I don't want to, like, there's such a, it can be a connotation around flipping houses, but we're not a company that's just aggregating thousands of houses. We're actually going in and solving what we think to be, an inventory crisis, because as you're looking for more inventory and you're rolling down the street and you see 3, 4, 5 nice houses, and then you see a vacant house, overgrown grass, window knocked out, that's a property that's going to take someone very specific to buy.
Hmm.
And so if you're driving on your normal listing agreements and you come across someone that, is in a bad situation, or someone inherited a house they can't take care of, those are all ways we can step in and be that problem solver, that easy button we like to say, for houses that you don't want to become a project manager, you don't want to have to list, you don't want to have to, fight the seller on the fact that their floors really don't look good anymore. But because seller expectations are one of the hardest parts about the industry. So when we can come in and really explain why our pricing is our pricing instead of just spitting out that algorithm, it really helps kind of get the seller understanding why, and it helps the listing agent for sure be able to communicate with the seller. Like, this is why the investors offer, or New Western's offer is that, because X, Y, and Z. So as you're going through and you're looking at how to, generate more revenue from those situations, I think it's just a matter of finding houses that you typically would pass on. And so when you're looking at your marketing and you're marketing to high scale, maybe you're sending out mailers, maybe you're doing YouTube videos, a lot of that really can exclude people in tough situations because they're not your typical clientele. But if you start adding mailers to zip codes that typically might not be, your $800,000 house, well, $300,000 or $400,000 houses that are a little rough, 4 of those in a month that you sell to us will get you plenty of, work through it. And so I think, well, that is to say, we buy up to like $2 or $3 million homes. It's not a matter of they have to be less expensive, but it's just a matter of the right situation. So tweaking your marketing to include those areas you might ignore because you typically don't want to list those. Well, now you don't have to list it. You just have to find it, communicate it, and, get it closed on. So that's some ways you could tweak it depending on who you're targeting. But
I wonder too if we're going to start seeing a lot more of homes that you're mentioning would be a good fit for you coming into the market as the baby boomers start passing away. I was trying to think of a nicer way to say that, but baby boomers are coming to the later stages of their lives. Oftentimes, these are going to be properties that have been lived in without any sort of switch in ownership
yeah,
for 30 plus years. There's going to be a lot of these properties coming on the market when you walk in and go, oh my gosh, look at the countertops, the flooring,
yeah,
it's just going to happen, and as a result, these are people who, they're downsizing at this point. They don't want to renovate their home. And you're stuck with a situation of, gosh, I don't know how we're going to sell this very easily because of all the work that's needed. So I think almost, and I'd be curious to get your thoughts. I can almost think of building strategic partnerships with like estate planning attorneys or
yeah,
people who really deal with probate issues, or in wealth transfer, I guess, financial
yeah,
advisors. I would think that they come across these situations often. Somebody inherits a home. Mom and dad pass away, at a time when they weren't expected to, and all of a sudden now kids are scrambling to do something with this property. And this is a great opportunity, I think, to say, oh gosh, well, I don't have that skill set. I don't really know what to do here. I'm going to just pass it off to a company who has this incredible track record. And it's not the "we buy ugly houses" billboard on the side of the road, which is essentially you're doing a version of that. Doesn't have to be an ugly home, but this is
mhm,
this is New Western is a very legitimate sort of white glove sort of investment firm, and they already have all the investors. They have the boots on the ground, and that's probably the most important thing, is they have local representation. So
yeah,
they have people that can go in, make sense of the offer, to and explain that to the seller and say, here's how we arrived at this number, and hopefully able to then assist them and make maybe the heirs or whoever now is responsible for this home job a lot easier. And I know that oftentimes too, when there's when there's a death and this sort of there's property that is having to be distributed, that can be just incredibly stressful, because a lot of times, of course, the children might not be living in that area. They're doing these things virtually. You guys not only can handle that home, but you actually have people in those areas, in the major markets, 40 plus markets. Just incredible. Unbelievable. So this agent partner program is really been great for you guys, because it allows you to work with any other agent out there, and there aren't too many realtors, like you said, who are really focused on distressed properties, unless they are investors themselves, or they work with investors. Other than that, and that typically tends to be its own lane in my experience. It's like agents, there's kind of like three lanes I've seen in real estate, and I know there's more than that, but the three sort of career paths I usually see is commercial is kind of its own lane, traditional residential, working with individuals, and then of course you have investor agents, or agents that work with investors who are investors. And there are three very different lanes, and I encourage agents to really probably pick one lane, and maybe dabble in the other two. But this is a way to think, okay, I'm not a commercial agent, or I'm not an investor agent. I don't really understand investment all that well, but I want to have an option when I come across these opportunities. And two, what if there are if an agent does have an investor, you guys always are taking additional investors on as well. I imagine they could refer them to you and say, hey, here's a company that has an impressive track record, and obviously I have a relationship with them, and I would really refer you to that. They're buying homes every every 13 minutes. So
I think that's a really big point as far as like choosing your lane. And we know that the people that choose that that kind of residential retail real estate agent, they're not going to see this house every day, every week. But it's a matter of being able to, one, go out and find it, or two, have an option when you do see it. And it doesn't. The beauty of working with our agents on the ground locally is that you don't have to become an expert in real estate investment. You just have to see a house that you want to sell that would be really hard to list. And we have the expertise to tell you, well, here's some issues of why it'd be difficult for an investment, or here's the things we could do with our cash offer to get it ready. So it's not having to have all the expertise. It's just being able to identify just enough to send it to us. And we'll run the CMA. We'll run you through everything you need to know about why this could be a fix and rent, why it would be a fix and flip, or, this area, this zip code specifically, investors love this type. So this one maybe didn't work, but next time, so there's little tidbits of information we can give as we grow in that relationship with the agent, that they don't have to be an expert. They just have to, build the relationship and continue to send any house they think, might not be a perfect fit for their traditional, way of listing or selling it. So,
yeah, it's such an interesting idea. I was thinking of putting on my marketing hat for a moment, thinking, how might I find these properties? And you obviously you could wait for them to follow your way. But I'm thinking, you mentioned like mailers or other types of campaigns, reach out campaigns that are, I wonder too, I suspect a lot of these homes are probably not on the radars of a lot of agents. These are probably an underserved market, where it's kind of like recruiting realtors. If you want to recruit, almost all firms want to recruit the most productive realtors, the ones with the highest volume. And then you have people who are making a decent living, but not crushing it in real estate, and nobody's reaching out to them. And so there's firms now we're seeing that reach out just to those middle tier or even lower tier agents, saying, hey, we can solve this. And I almost think this is a similar sort of thing going on here, where we could identify some opportunities of those areas. And yes, maybe we as an agent don't really want those listings, but why not, see if anyone's interested, or having a succession situation going on, or a transfer or death. And I'm curious if you've seen any of the agents who refer you business, or even the agents that you guys have boots on ground. If you had any like sort of marketing ideas for how someone might go out and proactively find these properties versus just waiting for them to fall into their lap.
Yeah, I mean, I think the older population scenario is definitely one we see that is growing, because there are so many people that would just live such a content, happy life in their scenario, and they didn't see any problem with what the current market is looking for if you were to list, those carpets and the countertops as we were talking about. But those really are typically passed down to someone who already either owns a home, lives out of state, or so like being able to target that, whether through real estate attorneys or probate, things like that. Those are a big opportunity for sure, because there are, forget the stat, like how many ever millions over 65, every day retiring. Well, a lot of them want to downsize. A lot of them want to go live a different life, maybe closer to grandkids that aren't in the area. And at this point, a lot of them, there's not much equity they need to, like they pretty much own most of the homes. And so you can really come in with a nice, strong cash offer and get them to their grandkids so much faster than if you had to go through, updating the countertops, then finding a tile guy, finding a wood guy, finding someone to paint the house, remove the popcorn ceiling. Our investors love that because they know how to do all that, and they have crews to do that, in a matter of weeks. And so when you're looking at marketing it differently, it's just really including, as you said, like that middle ground, that lower ground. Like, I mean, just thinking the amount of affordable housing out there that is people are waiting on, is there's so many houses that are stuck and stagnant right now. It just
Yeah.
needs someone's specialty. It needs an agent, in the Chicago market to identify it. It needs someone in Tampa knowing that, this neighborhood has a lot of people looking to retire soon. And
Yeah.
how can we get more first time home buyers in houses that have been taken care of and made livable again, to transform a neighborhood that could potentially be on the downslope, and all of a sudden you have 10 new young families coming in. You have, a Midwestern couple who moved to Florida. You have areas that are really starting to be vibrant again because the houses are now turned over from either investors or agents, finding a way to make someone else's situation, whether unfortunate or fortunate, into a cash offer, into a new home. And now you have like this community that where all this value is added. And now their homes are more, priced appropriately. And, we're not price gouging. We're taking it, and we do such volume that we're really just trying to get as many houses as we can to the hands of our investors. So our houses come in at market value, and we continue to like push through that to make sure they really are adding to the community, and that's our investor base is very big on that. So
Yeah, I think that's really important, that you're actually improving these areas and these homes. How often are you turn around and selling versus buy and hold, where you'll be renting out? Do you guys only sell, or do you sometimes hold on and manage? Or
we don't manage any of them ourselves. I'd say out of our 200,000 investors, it's probably close to 50-50 or 40-60, depending. And it really just depends on what their preference is. We have some investors who have, this is their first purchase, their first investment. They're very excited to get a renter to rehab a house, in an up and coming neighborhood. And then we have some that have 10 doors, 15 doors, but we don't, everyone that's an investor with us has to, one, be qualified, and two, go through a disclosure process to where we're not just selling to big corporations. We're actually selling to the end investor, that end buyer, that individual really looking to do something with that home. And so as you go through and you look at it, it's a matter of, are you qualified? Do you have enough cash to do it? We work with different loans. Like we own Sherman Bridge as well. And so they have a multitude of companies that work with the certain loan types depending on your situation, whether cash or whatever. And so that's very helpful to investors who don't have all cash. But yeah, I think it's sometimes just a matter of finding the right opportunity within that. But
Yeah, I was thinking like if it was me and I was looking for some of these opportunities to pass over to New Western, I would possibly think about maybe purchasing even some demographic data and specifically
Yeah,
age information about neighborhoods, communities, suburbs, cities, and really getting a sense of where those opportunities are, and then creating a marketing campaign targeting specifically those types of properties or those parts of the community. So I think there's a lot of opportunity here that again
yeah,
is likely, again, it's not a traditional retail agent's maybe first choice in the homes they want to deal with or list, but they now have a solution. And again, this idea of working a little bit outside of the current retail residential real estate world, which is low inventory, high interest rates, and everyone's struggling in that particular lane. And then if you can sort of add in a little stream of, and again, you're really not doing much. You're just really making a connection. You're essentially
yeah,
connecting an opportunity to New Western and receiving a very healthy commission as a result, a very generous, I think, commission. So I think that's a perfect place for us to just kind of wrap up and say, hey, if you want to learn more about New Western, sell to newwestern.com is where you can go. That's the agent sort of site. And you can learn about this. And really, what you're doing is you just want to think New Western anytime you come across a property where you're like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a headache.
yeah,
Anytime you have that situation, and again, thinking about maybe I could go proactively find those, maybe talk to some lenders, talk to some banks who maybe have some of these properties on their books,
yeah,
talk to estate planning attorneys, financial advisors, accountants, real estate attorneys, as you mentioned. These are all great possibilities of how to find these properties, or consider blanketing a certain neighborhood. Maybe even do a door knocking campaign. I as much as I think a lot of people sort of shudder at that idea, I'm thinking that a lot of these properties, if the owners are still living, that these are people that probably aren't super tech savvy, and maybe aren't going to be as receptive to social media marketing
yeah,
or YouTube marketing, for example. Maybe a good old knock on the door may just in fact say, hey, I was just in the neighborhood, curious if you're thinking about moving or downsizing anytime soon. And that great, because I got a company I want you to talk to. It's not a
yeah.
bad idea. I like it.
Yeah, it's not at all. It's a good point. I was going to say, just look at one last thing, looking at, expanding your opportunity is if you're already going on, how many ever lunches a month trying to get listings and you're looking at how many calls and contacts you have in your phone. Well, each one of those contacts probably knows another five, another 10 people. And if you can become a resource for your contacts of you have a distressed property or your best friend's sister's cousin just inherited a property. I mean, you are now a resource for more than just market ready homes where people want to list. You're now a resource to all your contacts resources to become a distressed property investment type agent expert, because you can use us as your arm to do different things within your market and your network, and you're already growing your network. So just drop a line at the end of a call. Hey, well, maybe not your home, but you have someone who needs this type of home. I mean, it really is such an easy tweak that you could really generate an extra 10 houses a year.
Absolutely. I was thinking you could even say, "Hey, I have added in recently a new service for my clients where I have learned how to start servicing homes that are distressed." And you could even just have that quick conversation. If somebody, maybe parents pass away, the kids inherit a home they don't really want, they want to sell, but maybe the home hasn't been updated in 20 or 30 years and or
Yeah,
longer, and maybe look, there's just issues with it. I now have a solution. So if that ever, if you ever hear about this sphere, anyone in my sphere of influence, to anyone, please let me know and I can connect them with my partners. I think you're absolutely right. I think, a lot of times people don't know about where they should go to handle something like that.
yeah,
Unless you tell them in advance. Otherwise, they're going to Google, or they're thinking, well, I guess I don't know anyone in that area. I don't live there. I don't know the realtors in that area. This is an opportunity to really cast a super wide net by, you're right, telling everybody you know, I now can service these potential properties. And again, all you're doing is really making a connection and letting
Yeah.
New Western take the ball and run with it from there. And their track record is really impressive, just incredible. And so I want really encourage everyone, go to sell to newwestern.com, learn about their agent partner program. They want to work with you and they want to help you with the properties that, quite frankly, you don't want to deal with.
Yeah.
So, and also find them on Instagram and Facebook. Just search for New Western. It's there. We'll have a link to them in the show notes. Guys, this is a very cool thing. And again, just to sort of let you know why we chose New Western to be on the show is they came to us and said, we have a solution for your listeners. And, it's funny because we do get a lot of pitches for guests to be on our show that are investors who just want access to our audience, but they never really have a solution in place or a reason for us to have them on other than for them to just promote themselves. And this is really an opportunity that we thought was really helpful to our listeners, because we do get a lot of questions going, hey, could you do more investor related content on our show? And we say, well, there's so many other podcasts that already do that. But, and feel free to listen to any of those shows if you'd like. But our audience, they want to, they're focused in their lane, which is residential retail, mom and pop, or not mom and pop, sorry, husband and wife or whoever, building, families basically, or individuals, doing their own home purchases or sales. They don't really understand this world. They don't want to deal with this world, but at the same time, be nice to earn a referral commission on something so simple and easy, and let New Western do all the heavy lifting, because it's a lot of heavy lifting, and they know how to do it at scale. And you don't want to cut your teeth on one of these properties if you've never done it before. It is, quite frankly, it's a nightmare to deal with if you don't have a ton of experience. And anyone who's ever had to do it, just ask another realtor who's ever had to do it. They will tell you that this is it's a big undertaking for maybe a smaller commission, for all of the work that goes in. Whereas in this case, you offload all the work and to New Western, and they're thrilled to do this. This is what they do. So guys, please consider working with New Western. Sell to newwestern.com is the website. We will have links to all of their social, as well as other places where you can learn more about them and how to provide referrals. Kurt, thank you on behalf of our audience for providing a solution, and more importantly, a way for them to generate additional revenue this year. We know this is a tough year for retail residential agents. I mean, we have 800 agents at our firm. It's tough. It's a tough year. And, anything that you can do to add in some additional revenue is going to help this year. So let's build these relationships and figure out a way to find some of these opportunities, or at least let every one of your clients know how they can, if they find these opportunities, how to pass those over to you. Because you're really doing somebody a big favor by taking this workload off of their hand. Kurt, thank you on behalf of our audience. Also, on behalf of Kurt and myself, thanks to the audience for listening and paying and being present for this episode. We encourage you to please consider telling a friend. Look, there's a lot of realtors out there who don't listen to our show. They're not aware of it. Please let them know. Send them a link to this episode so that they know what to do when they come across these types of properties. We'd really very much appreciate it. And also, so tell a friend, and also leave us a review. Let us know what you think of the show. We really appreciate it. It allows us to continue to better serve you with your feedback. So, Kurt, thank you so much. We will see everybody on the next episode.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it.